Oh my god, I can't believe I won well with 5 like that.
Yeah, turn 3. That
was
crazy.
So, and the one thing we were talking about that you did and did really well was you attacked. You had the Sagardazade out.
Oh yeah, just so that she can't block. And
Right,
then
and then you
in.
attacked.
The
with
first
flyer.
game she didn't understand how the ink moth thing worked.
Where it loses flying.
And then game's flying again when you activate it again.
Oh, you can just
That's how I killed her. Yeah. Third Saga trigger on the stack, activate Ink Moth, find Hammer, put Hammer on Ink Moth, activate Ink Moth, kill you.
So you just so you can just pay 1 mana and activate it again. I didn't realize that. I thought you just attacked. Did you not have a Sagardazade to flash it?
Well,
it puts it into play.
Got it off of
Saga.
Saga.
So
put it
Saga
into
puts
play.
it.
Oh, Saga just puts it into play. I see.
So explain that interaction again, if you would, with the. Let's get the card here.
Yeah, I'm trying to. So, Urza Saga and Hammer and Ink Moth.
Right. So Urza Saga goes and gets the hammer, and then so it puts it straight onto the battlefield.
It puts it in the battlefield. So if you put it in the battlefield, you don't have priority to activate Ink Moth Nexus. So you have these and like some other permanents or whatever. You activate Ink Moth with this third trigger on the stack. You float a colorless. I was 1 mana short of being able to activate to make a Saga token and also do the thing. But if the game's over that turn, it doesn't matter. So float a mana, find the hammer, puts it into play, equip to Ink Moth. This is in the graveyard.
But it loses.
It loses flying. If you activate it again, it gets flying again. She didn't have a flying blocker, so it's 11 infect.
So how does it get flying when Hammer Time makes it lose flying?
So it's a layers thing.
Okay.
When when you activate Inkmoth Nexus, it becomes a 1/1 Blink Moth creature with flying and infect until end of turn. It's still a land. Basically, it becomes a creature and gains flying. It has this creature type and this text box. It loses flying when Hammer gets put onto it, and then you activate it again. It just becomes a 1/1 Blink Moth with flying instead of whatever it was before. Same thing with if there's an equipment that makes creature lose all creature types. If you activate Mutavault against all creature types, you equip it. The thing it has no creature types. You activate it again. It has all creature types.
Okay.
It's like same thing with any of the man lands and stuff.
Huh.
So that was how game 1 went, and then
we wondered what. Yeah, we were talking about how you got through with Hammer Time having the.
Yeah, it's just my hand was really set up. I found that in the little that I played this deck, you want to mulligan aggressively to hands that can equip a hammer. It doesn't need a hammer. So that first game, my hand was like had lands and spells and like functioned. Like I bought Laris on turn 3 instead of like advancing the board state because it just didn't have anything else to do. And the cards that you have to equip hammer is Pure Steel Paladin and Sagard's Aid. Pure Steel Paladin, if you have Metalcraft it, makes their equip cost 0.
Yeah, because
you're not paying 8 to equip a hammer.
Hammer's equip is 8.
That's unreasonable.
No, yes.
So Pure Steel Paladin makes it free. Also cantrips when you cast it or when you put it into play, so you draw a card. And then Sagard's Aid lets you flash them in. And Sagard's Aid is the best card in the deck, I think.
Yeah.
Because like it's the last game. I turn 2 Stoneforge, turn 3
Open the armory or whatever.
what is it? I can't remember what the name of the card is. It's 2 of
the white mana.
Oh, Steel Shaper. It's Steel Shaper's Gift.
That's it.
Steel Shaper.
Yeah, so I play my 3rd land. I was able to play Earth Saga instead of the planes in my hand because I didn't need triple white. Tap the planes, Steel Shaper's Gift, find 2nd hammer. My hand is land, hammer, hammer. And then attack with Ornithopter because she has no flying blockers. And then just double flash in hammer and 20 you.
Right.
Turn 3.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Double flash in hammer.
Turn 3 kill you.
Auto equip.
On a Moto 5.
On a Multi 5.
On a Multi 5.
My 7 was a 1-lander with double Springleaf Drum, but no 0 mana guy. The hand was good, but if any of the cards in the hand were a 0 mana guy, like a Midnight or Ornithopter, and you play 8, then I would have kept the hand. And then my 6 had no lands, so I had to ship it. But I was on the draw, so that helped for sure.
So, what made you decide to play this deck today?
It's busted. I think the deck's just really good. There's a lot of like nuanced sequencing stuff. Like both my kills that game were like, you need to know the interactions between how the cards work.
Right. Yes.
I 5-0'd a league with this deck. Like the first time I played it, I was like, okay, maybe I should just play this. It's good. I'm having a real identity crisis in Modern right now because I want to play Dredge, but it's like so bad.
Right.
It doesn't function. Like
we were just
Dredge doesn't
talking
work.
about that.
Yeah, Dredge.
With the main deck hate.
That's completely irrelevant. If the deck could beat literally anyone, I would be playing it. Any tier 2 deck in the format, if you had a good matchup, I'd be playing the deck. But Dredge beats itself every game because you cast Cathartic Reunion and you dredge twice, and then you draw, and then you have to untap and draw. You're just like really embarrassed, and your deck doesn't work. That happens like at least half the time. In addition to all of the graveyard hate that people are playing in their main deck, those cards are incidentally just graveyard hate. They're like good cards because they're good against prowess and they're good against all the Lurrus decks because they have a lot of graveyard synergies, even though it's not like lights out against them or food. But then people are also like playing 3 or 4 pieces of graveyard hate in their sideboard, and there's no graveyard decks in the format. So that's extremely hostile. But also, even if the deck functioned, you would still have a bad matchup into all those players. So
Yep.
Right.
yeah.
Well, you're 2-0.
Yeah.
What deck are you trying to not run into for the rest of the tournament? If you had to pick one.
Probably combo decks. I think if somebody
decks.
like, I don't think this deck beats Storm on the draw.
Right.
I
Or
don't-
like maybe
This
one
deck
of those-
doesn't beat Ad Nauseam,
like a
except with
glimpse
Inkmoth.
deck.
Inkmoth is the only way you beat Ad Nauseam. Yeah, I would love to play against Glimpse because the deck only functions 20% of the time.
Right. I ran 2 leagues with Glimpse. And I was
Yeah, you
like,
just-
how do people play this?
You just goldfish each other.
Yeah,
Every time I
I'm
watch the
sorry.
deck, 80% of the time they fizzle, and then the 20% of the time they don't fizzle, they create so many permanents that it crashes the program and restarts the game. So I've never seen them win a game. The deck's sweet. It seems really cumbersome in paper
Yeah.
to execute. It seems like a lot. But this deck is like fairly straightforward. It's just like put a hammer on something, and then you play like Giver of Runes and 12 Tutors or whatever. And the deck's just like Esper Sentinel draws a bunch of cards. It's just like it's a synergy deck, but you're only playing like a couple bad cards. Like Memnite and Ornithopter kind of suck, and like Springleaf Drum's not very good. But when you add it all together, like it's one of those things where it's more than the sum of its parts. Like Sigarda's Egg looks like a card that is terrible, but then you combine it with like the rest of the pile, and it's just like the best card. I want to see this card every opener. If I have a Sigarda's Aid and like a way to find hammer or like anything else going on, I'll keep the hand.
Sick.
Very good. Well, it was awesome to watch you play it. I thought you piloted it really, really well.
Yep.
It was really cool to see both of those kills the way that they were done. You know, the attacking, like I said, the second one attacking first with the flyer, then flashing in the hammer time. You know, because then the creature loses fire, but
Yeah, but it's
blocks
not.
were
It's
it's
we've already,
irrelevant.
we're in blocks,
established,
so yeah,
right.
you didn't block 220.
Yeah, and then just
The Inkmoth
two
thing is really
hammers.
weird. Every time that I've done that, which hasn't been very many times, my opponent's always like,
Wait, what?
That's how that works. I'm like, yeah, it's the layers thing. Layers don't make sense.
No, layers do not make sense.
No, but
Toughest part of Magic is layers.
it's like the same layer as copy bull traits, and the way that functions. There was a judge seminar one time. I don't know if this is a super relevant story, but
No,
it's
go
a
ahead.
short one. So if you have a Progenitus, an animated Celestial Colonnade, and a face down morph card, and I animate your opponent, and so those are your cards, right? Progenitus, animated Colonnade, face down morph card. What it is on the bottom side irrelevant to the puzzle. And I have Mutavault. I animate it, and then cast Mirror Weave to make all creatures in play copies of target creature until end of turn. And I declare no blocks. How much damage do I take?
No idea. I'm lost.
You make all creatures.
Copies of my
Copies.
animated Mutavault until end of turn.
You take no damage.
Wrong.
How much damage do you take then?
You take 6.
6 from.
So
Because they're all 2/2 mutable.
Progenitus becomes so copyable traits and copyable effects is what's printed on the card. Doesn't copy giant growths until end of turn. Doesn't copy counters. Doesn't copy modified power toughness unless it's printed on the card. It just copies the cards on the face.
Okay.
So they all become unanimated Inkmoth Nexus or unanimated Mutavaults. Is just what their printed card is. Progenitus is removed from combat because it's not a creature anymore. Celestial Colonnade is still a 4/4 with all but it's a Mutavault. It's a 4/4 blue-white elemental with flying or whatever. And then the face down morph card stops being whatever it was and becomes an unanimated Mutavault because it's a face down card. Cards that are face down are always 2/2s. The game just treats a face down card as a 2/2. in play. So it doesn't get removed from combat, even though it's an animated mutavault, because it's a 2/2, because it's face down regardless of what it was
Okay.
before.
So you
That's-
take 6.
Yeah,
That's
so you take 6.
hilarious.
Wow.
Yeah. So copyable effects are like really really weird, and I don't think these interactions are super complicated. Like once you learn it, like you know it. But the deck is more than it looks at face value. I think this is probably the best deck in the format. With like the blue red. They were playing blue red Delver before, but now it's like a mid range deck, and they just like cut Delver and playing good cards.
So, just to acknowledge D. Cronky in the chat. Hey, thanks, man. Event is going really well so far, so appreciate that. Real quick, before we let Nathaniel go, Urza's Saga.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
How does it feel? Or are you asking if I think it should get banned?
Well, how does it feel? Does the power level feel good? Because there's so much talk around the card.
This card it's a very good card. It is the second best card in Modern Horizons, and the best card in Modern Horizons is Dragon Rage Channeler.
I was
Yes.
hoping you would
Card's
say that.
card's better in a vacuum. It's better in all the decks that play it. It is just a linear card.
Dragon Rage Channeler, which changes
That card-
subject real quick.
that
since you
card's
brought it up.
gas. Dragon Rage Channeler is nuts.
You can play
It's
it.
But it's not
in
it's
any deck.
not broken,
insane.
but it's like very efficient and does all the things that you want to. And the decks that would want to play a card like that, the Surveil just like adds an extra layer.
Yes.
It's just like it's a questing beast thing. It has an extra line of text that just makes it more relevant than you would think. That card is the best card in the set. I think Urza Saga. People were like panicking about Urza Saga. Like this card should get banned.
Yeah.
I mean, people do that for every card that gets played in any format on release. But Urza Saga is very good if your opponent is not interacting with you, or if they're interacting with you a lot. So like, unless they're like a combo deck. So like Urza Saga, one is a land. And it's a colorless land. So playing it in a 3-color deck makes your mana terrible most of the time. Unless you're like very light splash, you're playing like a ton of fetches. There's a deck building cost where you need to your deck has to afford to play 4 colorless lands, which is a lot for some decks. You can't be playing 3 colors with it. I don't think. And then you also need to fill your deck with artifacts to one, make the constructs bigger, and then find something with the constructs. So that comes at a not a significant deck building cost because like it slots into a lot of things naturally, but also like if somebody wants to beat all the Urza Saga decks in any deck, they just put sideboard cards into their sideboard, and then they beat it. Like if you my opponent plays an Urza Saga, and I'm prepared for it. If you like Force of Vigor is a real popular sideboard card, you can respond to the first trigger before it learns how to make a mana and just blow it up, and blow up something else, and then they don't get their mana that turn.
Right.
Like the card's super beatable, and also even when you get value out of it and it's a 3-for-1, it's a land drop, which is like pretty free, and you make 2 like 7/7s or whatever, even if they're 4/4s, it's still good, and you find whatever important piece for your deck and put it into play, which is all of this is uncounterable, so it's already kind of like very good. But it costs 6 mana
Right.
and it's a colorless land.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's very slow.
It does come. That's what everybody's like. You make 2 constructs, and you go get something.
If your opponent
that's-
doesn't kill you on turn 3,
Right. It's modern.
Yep.
And
yeah,
a very, very common sideboard tech for a lot of decks with these very greedy land bases in Modern, Blood Moon.
yeah, Blue Moon kills it, Alpine Moon kills it, just state-based action, because the
Yeah.
way Sagas works, it just puts it in the graveyard, because
Right.
it has no max chapter count,
Right.
because it's tied to the super type Saga, and not the, it's tied to the subtype Saga, but it keeps that, and becomes a mountain. It's a very weird interaction, but yeah, Blue Moon kills it.
Right.
They just, yeah.
So
Good.
personally, I haven't. I've played against it. I've played it. We've done a lot of play testing. I haven't felt that it needs banned.
I don't think anything
But
needs
only
banned.
only time will tell with that kind of stuff.
They're not gonna ban the card.
No.
Literally everyone was playing it for 2 weeks after it got released, and then the top 8 of like every single event, there were like 4 copies of it total, maybe. It's like the food deck. The food deck, the engine's very, very powerful. If somebody is prepared to beat it, they are going to, because it's really fragile.
Right.
And Urza Saga is real slow, so like
It is. It actually. I mean,
it's 6 mana in Modern.
right.
And it's colorless land. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of points against it. The card's real powerful. I'm glad that I'm able to play with it. I think that there are.
Well, and a lot of the decks that are making better use of it is the fetch.
I actually think this deck makes the best use of it.
Getting the hammer.
Yeah.
Every mode is relevant.
Right.
And this deck, being able to play Springlet Drums and a bunch of zeros, like they're very often 6/6s or higher. And being able to play like a Pithy Needle and a Shadow Spear main in a deck that already wants to deal lethal combat damage to your opponent. I think Urza Saga puts in a little more work in this deck than it does in a lot of other decks.
So if your mana base can handle it, I was talking about this earlier. Get your opinion since you're in here. I was talking about running the possibility of running 1 or 2 as a fetch for Vile.
For Vile,
If you're
I
a
think-
creature deck and you're running Vile, it's tough to have the colorless mana, but if you ran a 1 or 2 of as a possible tutor,
okay, I have 3 questions for you. What decks play Vile?
humans, Soul Herder, those kind of decks.
Okay, which of those decks can cast a spell with a colorless mana if the spell's not Aether Vial?
Yeah, humans definitely cannot.
Humans probably can't, but Soul Herder does.
On turn 3, they can spend the mana on turn 3. They
Yeah,
play like some number of Wall of Blossoms, but
Yeah.
that's it.
What about Stoneforge Mystic decks like maybe mono white taxes playing?
It's fine there if you build your deck for it. You could probably warp the construction of the deck to be good. I'm not sure that it needs it. But I also don't play those decks, so I'm not really sure. I think that it's probably better in like a blue light control shell than it is in those things. But that does come at a cost because you want to play counter spells and Archmage's Charms, and that's not used to cast with a colorless land in your deck. But if somebody wanted to spend the time and do the math and figure out the mana base and work it in, I don't think you'd play 4. You'd play like maybe 2 probably.
Right.
If you really figure it out and solve it and just like crack the code, you could probably play 3. It's probably busted in a control deck if it doesn't warp the mana so bad in the games that you draw it.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how you cast Counterspell. It's like playing Damn in an Esper control deck. That card's awesome because it's 2-mana removal spell. They can't regenerate their thing, which is pretty relevant. But it's also a Wrath.
Yeah.
But it's black on the front side and it's white on the back side in your Counterspell Archmage's Charm deck. So I don't know how you cast all those cards on the same. Like you want like black, you want like blue, white on turn 1. You want blue, black on turn 2, and then you want blue, black on turn 3.
Yeah.
That's very hard.
Very hard.
That's really hard.
Yeah, you need like
You're-
Raven Karens and all
if
that
you're
stuff.
even close to doing that,
it
you're
is alright.
Urza Saga
probably
doesn't pay for that stuff. So I don't think you can fit Urza Saga into any of those piles.
yeah. If you are able to pay for any of that, though, you're probably shocking the heck out of yourself too.
I think there's probably Miracles mana base that can afford to play Urza Saga as a 2 of. If you play 4 Glacial Fortress and 1 Triome and probably 2 copies of the Filterland, Mystic Gate.
Mystic Gate.
Yeah, but the games where you would have Mystic Gate plus and you can't play Field of Ruin in that deck. You just can't afford to. The games where you have Urza Saga and Mystic Gate in your opener is just you have to mulligan because it's a night colored mana.
Right.
So
Well, we won't. We probably should let Nathaniel get ready for. It is Nathaniel, right?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Doesn't
that's like I'm sitting here, make sure you got the right name. Probably let him get ready for his next round. So, what a informative, awesome conversation. Thank you for your time.
yeah, absolutely.
Congrats.
Yeah.
I hope I win more Magic. This
Yes.
deck's sweet and it's like very linear, but there's also a ton of room to outplay your opponent. So